Hey everybody, this is Shannon Mayer, and you are listening to the most amazing Blush and Burn podcast with moi.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning back in to the Blush and Burn podcast. I'm Laura Eakin.
And I'm Annie Baxter.
And we're here with the amazing author, Miss Shannon Mayer. And I can't tell you how excited I am to have you on today.
Yay, thank you. I'm excited to be here. First time on Twitch, so it's like
it's really cool, huh?
Yeah, it's very neat. I like it.
It's a cool platform. We've liked it.
We love it. We love it. And today, I'm so excited to jump into your writing journey, your publishing journey, and the whole Bookish community as a whole, because you have been participating in this world for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And I think that you have quite a unique perspective on all things that are happening now versus where things were back at the beginning of your writing journey.
Back in the day. Right. Back in the day.
Oh, so much.
How long have you been writing?
I mean, writing for being full-time writing. I went full-time in it was about May of 2013. So I'm full-time writing for about 12 years now.
Got it.
Prior to that, I spent the previous 10 years writing with the purpose to get published. And it was all kind of prior to I want to say the golden age of ebooks. So it was very much reaching out to the traditional market, writing books that, you don't really have as much of an idea of what is popular because things move so much slower. There wasn't as much access to what was, coming out next, as it were. So from the time I was about 25 and I'm 45 now, I was writing with the purpose to be published.
So I love that.
It's been a while.
That's a long journey.
It is. People don't see that because all they see is where you're at now. Right. So it's very common to be like, I've never seen you before, therefore you must be new. And the reality is, no, most of the authors kind of in my scope, people that I hang out with are very similar stories. They've been around for a while, very consistent, but not necessarily like viral hits, if you will, which is the current thing.
So how many books have you written in that time frame?
I really want to know. I want to know this total.
I don't know the exact number, and that sounds terrible, but we're in between 85 and 95.
So I searched this out.
Okay.
I may have looked.
That you did.
Because I went on to Amazon because I was like, how much does she have? And how many series? Because every time I search your name, a different one was popping up to the top of the list. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Where are we at?
Sorry.
And when I searched it for just physical copies in English, there were 92 options that I could choose from.
Sounds about right.
And that includes the 2 pre-orders that you had at the time, which you just had a book release yesterday.
Yesterday, yes.
Which was so exciting.
Always. It never dulls. You never get tired of the new release. There's never a moment where you're like, oh, well, it's just another book. 92 books in, still exciting, still lots of fun.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And I just think it's a really cool payoff, I would think, because I just know each book just takes so much of you that it's just such a payoff, to be able to put it out and actually just get it out there. Not to mention just the I just think there's got to be this relief of sweet.
It's very satisfying, but it's better if you're doing it in advance, meaning it's terrifying when you're 3 days out from the deadline to upload your last file and you're still in edits. It's really, really, as indies, we put, I think, a lot more pressure on ourselves to get things done at a speed that seems impossible at times. So it's much more enjoyable. I'm working a little further out now. So I have a book coming out in July, which is a big surprise. I still haven't announced it. It's tied in with a major publishing house in the UK. And so we've kind of been back and forth, but it was written 1.5 years ago, which is crazy to me. That doesn't happen. So the ability to do more marketing for it at that level has been really fun. But yeah, working further out is much more enjoyable. Not so much stress, a few less gray hairs, which you can see. I've got my little.
Oh, hey, you might catch a couple of glimpses.
I like gray hairs. I think they add character. I'm going to embrace mine. I'm going to I'm slowly letting mine even out. I'm a graceful age of 44. So I I have quite a few that are laced in there. I'm just gonna let it go graceful. I'm actually, man, I've seen some beautiful heads of gray hair that every time I'm like, dang, like it's just so pretty. I'm a fan of it.
I have like my natural hair color. I don't know, we're talking about this now. Is mousy. It's like a mousy ash gray or ash brown, and so it already has like a gray tone to it. It's not. My family is not notorious for nice gray hair, so I'm fending it off as long as I can. So
I love that. If I have any like chance of having Annie's hair, I'll take it in a heartbeat.
Right.
Because I've started to get a couple. And when I ended up I had a side shave. And so I part on the other side now, which is still growing out. But I started to see like shiny bits and I went, whoa. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Why am I reflecting? What is happening? And I like showed my husband and he's like, ooh, let me get the tweezers. And I was like, don't touch it.
Don't pull them. They're beautiful.
That's not the worst. Okay, so I will tell you right now, I forgot to take my meds this morning. So if I am all over the place, you're welcome.
No, so
love it. We're here for it.
And I actually just noticed Jackie Ann is here live on Twitch with us, and she can attest that me and Laura will squirrel all day long, and we have a really hard time. Like it takes everything in us to streamline and stay focused.
Totally. And I mean, it's worse as you get older anyways. So like if you have, here we go. If you have ADHD symptoms as a woman, it actually gets worse as you get older, as your estrogen drops. So basically
lovely.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, as we hit menopause, if we were managing our ADHD, which most of us do because we learn to mask and all the things, that ability starts to diminish and then you'll lose your fucking mind. And then you go to your doctor and they're like, oh yeah, it's this or it's that. It's not those things. It's not those things. It's most likely like ADHD, which is super fun. The drugs
are lovely.
Yeah.
That's so great. I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's going to be fantastic. My husband's going to love me.
Yeah. We're just going to move from one thing to the next. It's going to be fine.
It's fine. That's how we roll anyway.
We would prefer to keep it so chill and just to kind of like move from like one thing to the next, because I just think that like without it, I think we were talking about this for a minute before, but it's like, if you can't like show who you are through what you do, it's like, what's the point? Like what are we doing? Like everything would just be fake.
Oh, for sure. And the thing is that people know, like, even if they don't like come right out and say it, they know if you're being fake, they know if you're full of shit. And we all get that feeling like, oh, that person we connect with, or that person, I could deal without them. I mean, we may not even put it in the words of, oh, they're fake. We just know that the people we're comfortable with are the ones that are actually showing us who they are, you know, like they're but that's hard because when you're open, you have more opportunity to be hurt. So it takes some courage. It takes some courage.
We are learning that actually.
We're learning that right now.
The last few weeks, so we're learning that it's going to be a process for us to not get our feelings hurt a little bit, but it's going to be fine.
It'll be fine.
We're working on that.
It'll be good.
But it's good. And now I'm squirreling because now I'm like, so you have ADHD. So how does that play into like your writing? Because for me, no doubt. If I sat in front of a computer to write all day, I want to write. So I am an aspiring writer. I have 2 different stories that I currently have rolling around in my thought cage that I absolutely love and adore.
Yeah.
But one of them was a middle grade book that I wanted to write for my kids. And I was like, I just am not in that mindset. And I like spice and I like writing spice.
Spice and middle.
I'm like,
so good.
I think I need to shift over.
They don't go together.
They don't. So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to write an adult fantasy novel is where my brain is at this moment. And I love my story, but I sit down to write. And then within like 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, I got to get up and do this. Oh, I've got to get up and do that because my ADHD, or I call it situational writing or situational reading, where I can't do one thing without completing a task.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've done a lot of research on the ADHD because I'm a late bloomer, as it were, finding it out, but also like my son's been tested. He has it, my brother. So I really have tried to educate myself. So there's like 7 branches of ADHD and you can have one of any of the 7 and they all have kind of slightly different symptoms. But so for me, one of the things, and they gave me all these ideas. I'm like, I'm already doing all these things. So one of the things when it comes to ADHD for me, that I have to do is I play music when I'm writing. And other people are like, you're crazy, because it can be songs, it can be pop, and, you know, it can be orchestra, whatever. But I need that additional stimulus to allow me to hyperfocus. And that is an ADHD thing. But the hyperfocus comes, and if it's disturbed by anything, like if the cat comes in and bumps me, it's disturbed. And I'm out of that flow. And you can talk to like high level, like sports athletes, high level, like musicians, artists, that sort of thing. And they all talk about flow. And flow is like almost a type of meditative state where you literally, you're so deep into the thing you're doing, whatever that thing is. It's like if I can get into it, I could be writing for 3-4 hours and almost like come out of it like a dream. And that sounds really hokey, but it's like, I don't realize how long I've been writing. That doesn't happen as much anymore because I have a 10-year-old and I have a husband and all the things that are distracting. But my advice would be to find a place. Like a lot of times I would go to Starbucks, which again sounds crazy. I put my headphones on, but all that kind of white noise and movement was weirdly calming for my brain, because that's really what it is ADHD is looking for this. You're wanting that stimulus, and you need that added stimulus. And it's why the drugs, which are stimulants, work to calm us down, because they actually are working on the dopamine, et cetera, all the mechanicals of it. And so what I found is that additional stimulus helps me to focus on the thing I wanted to focus on. Headphones, noise, not just noise canceling, but like I would play music. And a lot of authors I know do this. I actually suspect most authors have some form of ADHD, autism, like take your pick. Like I think there's just
totally
neurodivergent across the board. There's probably very few neurotypical authors would be my guess. That's my guess. Nothing wrong.
I would believe it.
So yeah, like there's tricks that I've used, and escaping like your usual place is one of them. The headphones is another. And also you have to be a little bit obsessed. So like, for me, the writing is a weird obsession. Like it's the thing I hyper focus on. For my son, same thing. Like something like last night, he got in his head that he wanted to build a Roman fort out of popsicle sticks. And this kid who you can't get to sit down and like have a conversation with you about, you know, anything that he doesn't want. He's hunting for this and he's looking for that. And he's, you know, I got to get this. And like, he's on a plan, he's squirreling. And I'm like, and I said to my hubby, I'm like, this is it. This is the hyper focus. It's just not on the thing we want it to be. It's on building a Roman Colosseum out of popsicle sticks.
Yeah, but it's like not a bad thing though, because like,
not at all.
No,
it's like if they like, I mean, I have my youngest is like this a little bit where it's like, so I totally understand this, where it's like if they find something that they want or like, it's like they get that like tunnel vision, and it's like the biggest, like I think like hope and prayer that you have as like a parent is that they find that one thing that can they can focus on to like make their money, right? So like for you it might be your writing, right? Or like everyone has like their own thing that they can pick, but it's like you just pray that they find that thing, they can hyper focus on it and just take them to the next level that they need to be at.
For sure. And that's been the thing all along, is I want him to, and he and I talk about this, and he's 10 years old. So, you know, I just say, you got to find the thing that you're passionate about. You got to find the thing that you love doing. He's always like, I don't want to get a real job. I'm like, well, mom's job isn't really a real job, because I totally do, right? It keeps me busy. I enjoy doing it 7 days a week, 24/7 most times.
Yeah.
You know,
most times. Well, some people need that job. Like some people need that like 8 to 5. It creates consistency in their life. It creates that they need that like they need routine. That routine.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean this might be my advice to Laura, is just, you know, start looking at like that, and you know, honestly, like I went through really bad burnout the last couple of years. I couldn't figure it out. Lots of stuff going on in my life, and I finally went and did the testing. And when you start understanding it more, you start understanding again, like as you get older, it gets worse. That's where most women actually get diagnosed, because it hits you so hard. The meds have been like life-changing for me. I feel like when I was 10 years ago writing, like I have like less of the paralysis that can come with the ADHD too, right? So I encourage anyone who's concerned about that to go talk to your doctor, you know, take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself in whatever you're doing, whether it's writing or whatever, how do you take care of the people around you, right? And most women, that's our thing. We're taking care of our kids, our husbands, our parents, our friends. But if you burn out and you crash, you know, take care of yourself first.
No, for sure.
I mean, I know that I've been on the meds before. I've been off of them for about maybe 5 years now. I think Laura's gone through them a little bit too. And
I self-medicate now.
They sure help. Laura self-medicates with caffeine.
I said I self-medicate with caffeine, which actually my doctor told me that I should. That if I didn't want to be on the meds, to start there. And then if it feels like I'm spiraling back again, to go back on meds. But I haven't really had much of an issue. So I'm just like, cool, I just dope myself full of caffeine all day.
It's a lot.
Well, so if you have, I mean, kind of staying on that same line of like writing and like hyper focusing, like what keeps you like motivated then to like keep going? Like what's your like ultimate motivation? Is it because you like creating stories? Is it because like what is that like thing that like kind of keeps you like
pushes you forward, pulls you forward,
like keep pushing, you know, keep moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things. Like when I first started writing, I always said you had to have a push and a pull. You had to have the thing that you were afraid of behind you, and you had the thing ahead of you that you work towards. And the thing ahead of me was I wanted to have children. And at the time, my job was very physical. I was a farrier. I shod horses for a living. Like, you don't want to climb underneath a horse when you're 8 months pregnant.
Oh, that sounds so uncomfortable.
Terrible idea.
We grew up with horses. So for me, it's like, I remember being out there. Do you remember being out there, Annie?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
It was the coolest thing to watch. Even now,
do you watch on
I can't help myself. Yes, I can't
help myself.
I know.
Like Nate the Hoof Guy is like, oh my God.
Nate the Hoof Guy are like the two that we can't get away from.
Like my favorite ever.
They come up when I watch them, so I'm like, oh, that's not right. I totally judge them. I'm like, oh, okay, so you just think you're hot shit because you took your shirt off and you got abs, but you actually aren't doing a very good job, my friend.
That's awesome.
It's very hard for me. But yeah, so that job, though, was really not conducive. So for me, one of the big pulls forward was I wanted to have at least one baby. And then the push on the backside was I didn't want to be working forever at a job that was a decent job, was fine, but I wanted to be able to pay down some debt. I wanted to be able to maybe get mortgage free. You know, I had these goals that really, you know, there was a financial on one side, right? And then the pull to something greater than myself, which was my son, on the other. And so those were the two motivators in the beginning. And now I would say, you know, some of it is a little bit of, I want to say, ritual. Like, this is what I do. I don't think I could turn it off. And I did I think it's Becca Smy's, like, it's not a personality test. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but basically it gives you your top 5, it's my meds. The top 5 like attributes to you as a person. It's like a 300-page test that you do. And
oh my gosh,
it's very, very in-depth.
That's a lot.
And that's cool though, because that means it narrows it down.
They totally do. And so my top, like, I had like empathy, intellect, and intellect is not necessarily smart, but like I value learning, right? So like empathy and learning, and like there was a little bit of business, but my very, very top attribute was ideation, which is coming up with new ideas. And so
I've never even heard that term. That's really cool.
I haven't either. And I like that a lot.
The reality is, as an author, it's amazing because I don't have a lack of ideas. But as an author, it's terrible because the ideas never stop. I will be dead with buckets of ideas over here, and I'll be a ghost haunting whatever authors I can, whispering in their ears and be like, okay, here's what you're going to do. Because I, like, literally, one of my things with my friends, I'm always like, if you guys need to brainstorm, you just call me. I was chatting with one of my besties. Her name is Denise Grover Swank. She writes kind of a few different varieties, but she's best known for her Rose Gardner. And she was like, hey, can you help me plot out something? I'm like, girl, that's my love language. And I was like, oh my God, that's what it is. This like brainstorming shit is I love it. And I'm like, when people ask me, I'm like, yes, I will. Let's talk for 3 hours about the idea that you have, and here's some more of mine. And then we build. And it's like this weird brain thing that I have. And I love it. It's a little bit problem solving too. Like, people will say, oh my God,
like, I'm with you. Like, I love to solve a problem. Like, I stopped working for a little bit, and I think I told my husband one day, I miss solving problems. Like I was doing it all day long, and I actually miss it. Like it's so rewarding to like have a problem and to solve it, and then like like it's so rewarding. Like,
so now she solves my problems.
Nice. What a good.
It's great. Yeah, I call her Annie. I'm struggling.
I like it, man. Solving problems is just
So so in terms of motivation, I would say that's a big part of it. The other is that I do have horses and they're expensive. So really, I write so that I can feed them and put their shoes on, and I wear hand-me-downs and don't get my hair done except once a year. Like, it's like if somebody saw me, they might think I was homeless. Like, they might actually look at me just walking down the street and be like, oh.
Listen,
so I feel like we project that pretty good.
Our favorite thing is thrift store shopping. So it is like our I go once a week to the one by me. So I'm like and usually it's to check the books. I have like a whole flow. Like I know where I'm going and I go here, and I check each thing that I want. And then I look, and if there's nothing, then I leave. And if there's something, then you get it. And there's nothing like finding that find where you're like,
it's so good.
There's like, that's a dopamine hit.
Yeah.
That's, and like finding a book that's signed.
You know what I found? So I also love thrift store shopping, but I don't do it as often as I used to, mostly just a timing thing. And I had to kill a little time. And so I'm downtown and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go over to Valley Village. And you guys have Valley Village in the States? Same idea. It's a thrift store. We call it.
It's like Goodwill out here for most places. But in Utah, we also have a place called Deseret Industries, which is church owned.
Yes. So Valley Village is like the Canadian version. We do have Goodwills too. But anyway, so I hop over to Valley Village, snooping through, and I think, I'm going to go see what there's in the books. Because occasionally you'll find like a good find. Now, both my PAs are like, they love to collect. They're both book hoarders. And I'm like, oh, that looks like it's in the YA section. And there's two together, exact same book. And I pull them out and I look at them and they're ARC copies, not to be sold. Two of them, brand new, never opened. The book just released February of 2025. So I was like, oh, it's not even an old one. I was like, snags. Wow. So obviously I paid for books that I'm not supposed to pay for, but I'm like, you never know what you're going to find.
You never know.
Signed
you
books.
never know.
Got to snoop in all of them.
It's the best thing. I may have found a signed Brandon Sanderson a little bit ago.
That's
so
sick.
I had some feels.
You guys are both in Utah?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's
he's from here.
So if anybody's got their, it'd be like finding a signed book for me, in my area. There's going to be more signature, but still a good find. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking it.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Your chances are better.
I have one.
See, you do have some.
I have one signed. Annie has one signed.
Nice. I like it. So, did the second one, did I not sign the second one? No, I did, didn't I?
I think it's only the first book.
I think it's just the first one.
I signed a lot of pages.
It's awesome character art, though.
Oh, thank you. I approved it, but I didn't pick it out.
Well, you did a fantastic job on approving this character art, which we'll talk about special editions, too.
Cool beans.
Yeah, these are fun, though, because I love when every chapter has, like, a like a page, like an art page with it and stuff. I just think it's fun, and it just adds like another level.
You guys got the two different special editions?
Yeah.
So we have the ones from Arcane.
You got the ones from Arcane. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I like my dust jackets on. Annie hates dust jackets.
So I don't like dust jackets. So I always pull my dust jackets off, almost always, unless it's like
exceptional.
I don't know. I just
she's picky.
I just hate fussing with them, and I always think they do such a beautiful job with the.
Do you keep them in like a binder? Do you keep like a dust jacket binder so you can flip through?
So I have a big empty shelf that has nothing on it, and I just stack them, and it literally looks like the books are just in there. I just stick them right in there, so it almost looks like the books are in there, and I just leave them.
You could do it like playing cards, like get some like plastic.
Oh, I could.
And then you just have them in a book that you could like flip through.
That's a good idea too.
That's actually a good idea,
isn't it?
I have tried. Thank God for ADHD brain. Love it.
I do too.
I've tried so hard to come up with like solutions of how to save. Like, I'm like, how do I save all these dust jackets? Like, I don't want them ruined, but like, I'm a big, like, I have a huge shelf here. I have a big one off the other side. They're all lined up so I can see them all. And I just, yeah, I just don't want them ruined.
Yeah.
So, but I don't want to get rid of them. So, and I mean, most of them are beautiful. I just really don't like to fuss with them.
I get it. So, like one of my series that we did special editions for, my 40 proof, we did the reverse dust jackets. You have 2 covers. So
I like those.
Fantastic.
And so because some people like the ones that I sell, like that came like, I want to say the original, but then the original were actually with the tarot cards. And so we did those as well. Like, I mean, yeah, but then people couldn't decide. They're like, well, which side? I'm like, I don't know. Pick your side.
Like, change it every week.
Let's just talk about special editions, Laura. Like, let's keep rolling because listen, let's just talk about it. What do you think of special editions? What do you think about this weird craze that is
it's
like
a crazy trend right now?
It is. It's like taking over. Book Talk is taking over literally taking over Instagram.
But we also participate in it.
No. We're full connoisseurs of this new thing that's happening. Like, what do you think about it and how it's like literally just...
I mean, here's the thing is that the book world ebbs and flows. I mean, like I say, I've been in it for 12 years and I've watched things come and go, whether it's a trend in the writing or a trending author. There are authors that were absolutely freaking massive when I first started. I thought one day I want to be like them. They don't exist anymore. They're not around anymore. So I think that the special edition stuff, I love it. I think super fun. Like, honestly, prepping a special edition is the most fun because you're deciding as an author and as a small publisher, I'm deciding what the edges look like, what the inserts look like, what the end pages are, like, and I'll talk about the book that I'm releasing in July in a minute on this, because we just went whole hog on the special edition because why not? So I think
why not?
I think if you look at it from a perspective of like, if you enjoy the process as an author, I absolutely think you should do it. Not all authors do, and that's okay. And not not all readers want the special editions either because there's not enough room. Like a lot of people have, they live in a small apartment. They only have room for a small amount of books. I'm not sure where it's going to go, if that makes sense. Like, I'm curious to see if they'll come like something of like a tipping point, meaning like, people realize again, hey, like, the book, the special edition's amazing. And let's say it's $50 for one special edition, which depending on where you're getting them, that can be cheap, right?
Totally.
Let's say $50 for one book special edition. You get to put it on your shelf. It looks beautiful, signed, whatever. But maybe that $50 you could have bought 10 ebooks. You could have bought 10 ebooks to read. And so I think finances are going to come into play at some point. And maybe they probably already are for many, many people.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that the special editions are fantastic. They're fun. I don't know how long they'll hold out, but I think as long as people want them, they're going to be done up super fancy. I think it's just a lot of people are going to have to make that decision between what can I afford. If I have a $50 budget this month for my books, am I going to buy one single book, or am I going to buy 10 or 12? Do you know what I mean? If that's the sort of where people are going to run into. I mean, honestly, from my perspective, I love doing them. I think they're super fun to do. Like I say, me and my team, we have just like, we sit down and we, build out this and build out that. And like, so the special edition we're prepping for July, we'll have it for like, I'm going to the BB4E, which is the Vancouver event with the Arcane gals. And
we love Arcane. We are like really big supporters of Arcane. Like, we love so we actually have a podcast coming out. I don't know when's the book box one coming out soon?
I think next week.
We have one where we went through all the book boxes that we subscribe to, because we have quite a few that we subscribe to, and we went through all of the ones that we like. And Arcane comes in we have 2 that are top, and Arcane is one of the top ones that we get because the way they do it is really, really cool. And honestly, their box is awesome.
Really, from the author's side of it, they were really easy to deal with. They were very, they were very upfront. I've dealt with other book boxes that were, delayed. The money didn't get paid out. The books didn't show up. People are contacting me, and I'm like, it's not on me. I've sold that to those people to deal with it. So like, I think the big thing is that, like I say, like, you got to find the right book box. You got to find the right company. It's why I'm doing the special edition myself for this release in July. The very cool thing about it is, like, so there's spell casting within it. And so on pages where there's spell casting happening, there's actually these little images of how the hand movements are of the spells. So, like, they're different throughout the book.
I like that.
There's going to be a really cool, I might as well tell, why not? If my readers are listening, they can be prepared. So
for sure.
I've talked a little bit about it. It's an Academy-based series, trilogy.
I'm a sucker.
Such a sucker for that academia stuff, man.
I know.
It is not YA. The main character is
better.
30 years old, and she gets recalled to the magical school, and she does not want to be there. So within that school, there are 7 houses, okay? So 7, just, how we break it up. And the end pages in the special edition will be one of those houses.
Cool.
So you could collect all 7. So you could collect all 7 houses.
Shit.
So you either
so you're telling me that I am now going on an Easter egg hunt,
not necessarily,
to find 7 editions of this book?
You don't have to. I'm going to tell you that right now, because the thing is we all, like, think about Harry Potter. What is your house for Harry Potter, Laura? What's your house?
Well, as a kid, I was a Gryffindor, but I'm more of a Ravenclaw these days.
Okay,
we're going Ravenclaw right now. So I'm going Ravenclaw right now.
I'm Slytherin right through and through. Like, it doesn't matter how many tests I do. So if you said to me, Shannon, this Harry Potter edition is going to be specific to one of these houses, I'd pick Slytherin. And that's really what I'm looking at, is that everybody feel connected to a certain house. So try and get the one that you are most connected to. Do trades. Maybe you get the wrong house, but your sister gets, you know what I mean? You can, it's an opportunity for people to connect, do some trades.
Yeah.
Maybe,
maybe listen, it's a world people that want to dive into. Like, that is like people want that. They want that connection with the books that they're reading, and they want it with other people. It's huge.
So it's an opportunity for people. If somebody wants to collect all of them, they certainly could. I'm not going to say not to, but I have a limited print run coming in. You know what I mean? So, and there's a certain portion of each of the houses in that print run. So it's going to be fun.
Going on.
I can feel it already. Hunt. Me and Laura are like, we got this.
I'm getting all 7.
Find them.
Great. That's fantastic. But honestly, like I say, the big thing is that I really feel like people want to connect with books and in the world, and this is an opportunity for them, or a chance for them to do so, right? To feel really connected. The edges of the pages are phenomenal. The foil on it is really beautiful. We've got some really cool character art already done. Like, it's really, honestly, we've taken everything we've learned from the other special editions we've done.
And now you're doing your own.
Oh no, I've done my own. So like my Fury of a Phoenix series, we did a Kickstarter for that. We did the special editions.
I remember that. Okay. Yeah, I remember that now.
We've done a few on our own now. We know what is most valuable to readers. Like, what do they want the most? Or at least we think we do. And so, like, anytime we can do something special, like the hand symbols within the pages and whatnot. And so, very excited to share that with everybody. I'm hoping that I'm allowed to share the cover soon. I actually have all 3 covers for the trilogy. I'm stoked.
Ooh.
I'm absolutely freaking stoked. I said frickin'. It was good.
Yeah, you did good.
We have like a release date, and we've just been kind of sitting on it because, like I say, it's so much more difficult working with a traditional publishing house in this instance, and not because they're difficult, but because everything moves so much slower, right? So I keep saying, like, when can we announce it? When can we do this? When can we do that? And they're going, not now, not yet. You know, I'm like, oh my God, like, come on, guys.
Like, just give me a time frame.
Give me a time frame. And it's just a different beast, right? Like, again, part of it is I've been doing this on my own primarily for 12 years. I'm the boss. So when I say, let's do it, then we do it. And so when I have to be like, I have to ask them?
Listen, me and you can connect on that for sure.
Oh,
I have like the hardest time when I can't be my own boss and I got to ask someone else what I can do and what I can't do.
Agreed.
It just kind of gets me a little. I don't really.
And I mean,
it's not my favorite thing to do.
You got to do what you got to do. And I mean, I have my two agents, both US and UK, are fantastic. Susan and Stevie, hi. They really honestly have been phenomenal in managing this whole situation. So it's just been, it's been a process. Lots of patience. It's developed.
I love this. I'm sure. I love this hand thing though. Like I'm like already envisioning it. Like man, when Doctor Strange comes out and he like makes like all his like little circle movements and like hand movements to do what he loves, and I'm just like,
so
like it's such a cool thing.
Basis of this is, and again, I'm going to tell you because y'all going to read the book anyways, and it's not going to. So excited. There's not wands, so the magic is coming through, like almost like think of it like sign language, right?
Love it.
So very organic, very and very easy to fuck up. Very easy to fuck up, which is a problem for our characters, of course, one of many. And so it's a whole different kind of take on it. I really wanted to give, like, how many of us read and loved, Harry Potter and all these ones that we grew up with, and then, or were older and we read, but like we never were going to get a Hogwarts letter. I read Harry Potter when I was in my 20s. I was never going to get a Hogwarts letter.
Exactly.
But what if you got recalled as now? I mean, we know how many people that get called back to school, they have to retrain for a new job, all that sort of thing. And that's kind of what I wanted to lean into, is like, sometimes you have to go back.
I'm so excited. This is giving me like all the feels.
Dude, it's honestly, and it's a whopper of a book. Like, it's probably twice what most of my books are in length. Like, it is such a big world. It is such a big world, and there's like a really solid, like smoking hot slow burn. That would be my, like, just that. Yeah.
You are speaking our language. Actually, this leads perfectly into a question that Annie and I had when you're writing these stories about whether it be a slow burn or a fated mate or like insta-lovey, because it's very hard to have a fated mate that isn't like super insta-lovey. Now in Golden, Annie and I have read Golden. We're both in the middle of Glitter right now and just dying. We love it so much. But it's that there's a rejected mate situation happening here. So how...
Which you don't hear a lot about. Like,
no.
Like, that's not very common, I don't think. And we also talk a lot about, like, in book club, like, the fact of, like what insta-love is versus, like, fated mates. Because everyone kind of has, like, their own little, like, take on it and stuff. And, like, I am down for a fated mate all day long. But I'm not a big fan of like the insta love. Like the minute they see each other, they're like in love. But there's something that fated mate thing does that allows you to like
play with it,
bypass that like insta lovey kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I as a reader get bored really quickly when there's no tension between the hero and the heroine. Meaning they're banging, they're in love and they're together. Maybe they're facing the world together, like meaning like a war or whatever. And I'm bored.
It's like, what's the point? Why am I here?
Because the purpose in my mind as a reader and probably as a writer is that I don't want a resolution till the end. But what I always tell my readers is if it's not okay, it's not the end. So if you're freaking out and thinking, oh my God, how do I keep reading? This is terrible. She's killing people, which just happened, yada, yada, yada. I just keep telling them, I'm like, if it's not okay, you have to keep reading because it's not the end. Right.
Yeah.
But like, I struggle with insta-love. I think I've done it a few times. I had an insta-lust. Like I have a pen name, Emma Dawn, and it's for reverse harem. books, and they're pretty insta-love.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
so you can add those 4,
know.
so it's 96 books if we're going to be real accurate, not 90.
On it.
Okay.
But those were really specific to that genre too, right? Reverse harem, you know, you got 5 or 6 men you're dealing with, you better fall in love pretty quick because you're about to bang like nobody's business, right? Like,
True.
so there better be something.
True.
But just like I say, my personal feeling, and nothing wrong with insta-love, nothing wrong with super spicy. I just really love the tension of a good slow burn as a reader.
Yeah.
As a reader, I want to just be turning the pages. Like, when is it going to happen? Not yet, not yet. Oh, you know, like, or if they get together, I love ripping them apart as a reader and as a writer. So like in Quicksilver, yeah, they got together. It was like 60%. Everybody was so funny. Everybody's angry. I don't like this. It's not so good. And then they're like, oh, 60%. I love it. I'm like, that's where they fucked. Come on, guys. Like, come on. Like, I saw that over and over and over again.
Okay, we've
had same feelings too.
Because we've heard that about Quicksilver a lot. And
have you read it?
I liked it from the beginning. Yeah.
Annie has. I have not.
I liked it from the beginning, but I thought it was good world building. And I thought the character development was great in it. And I thought I enjoyed it. I loved each character.
Yeah.
And they came together as a whole, and it made it. It was great.
That's what I mean, though. And so for me, but in that book, it wasn't a guarantee they were together. Do you know what I mean? They got it on, and there was spice, but it wasn't like a guarantee. So like, that's what I mean by like, once they're together, I have to still see that there's tension there or a possibility of them not being together for me to keep being engaged as a reader. And I love Quicksilver. Don't get me wrong. I loved it. I just thought it was funny how many people, because coming from a background of fantasy, like I read like Robert Jordan and, you know, all the Brandon Sanderson and like all the old school fantasy books, right? Like Anne McCaffrey. Yeah. And so world building to me is not boring. World building is like, ooh, what's happening? Oh, how does that work? Oh, this is cool. And so like you, Annie, I read the first part, kind of seeing how she was building that world.
Totally.
Right.
Think of like Patricia Briggs, right? Like some of these, like it doesn't just happen. Like none of it doesn't just ever happen. Like I love like Faith Hunter, like
and now you're speaking urban fantasy, which a lot of people don't even know what that is right now. So there's such a huge.
That's so crazy to me. Like this is like classics
to fantasy via Fourth Wing, Quicksilver, the viral thing is fantastic. Like Yarros and my brain, sorry, my meds. Whoop. Quicksilver's author, tell me her name.
Callie Hart.
Thank you. They've done a really great thing for the world of fantasy in many, many ways, because they're bringing in new readers into this genre. But those new readers have zero lingo. Do you know what I mean? They literally read Fourth Wing or Quicksilver or maybe
and that's it.
That's all they know. That's what they think fantasy is. And so then they go to read something else that has more actual fantasy in it, and they're like, well, this doesn't feel right because there's not as much romance. Or you say, well, like Priceless is a good example of urban, like my Riley Adamson series is urban fantasy across the board. It's about as urban fantasy as you can get. You'll hear people ask, and they'll say, well, I want something that's set in the real world, maybe not quite as much spice, but still magic. And I'm like, well, that's urban fantasy. And they go, we don't know what that is. So it's like
they don't have any clue.
So it's like,
and a lot of urban fantasy, in my opinion, is a slow burn. Because it's multiple books in a setting. Nothing like I used to. I still love her. Laurel K. Hamilton. She does like more of that, like maybe like horror. I mean, maybe her later books get a little bit more gory, I guess you could say.
I would say that probably her first 10 or 11 books would be considered classic urban fantasy. Yes, there was a slow burn, there was sex, there was tension, but partway through, she started really diving into more of the romantic / erotica of it, which is fine.
Yes.
But it changed the direction of what the books were, because urban fantasy classically is plot driven, characters and romance secondary.
Correct.
And so when you reverse that, it changes the story, and it changed her reader base, right?
Oh,
like a lot of people who read her from the beginning stopped reading at that point, and other people jumped in because they're like, oh, I wanted more spice.
I stopped for a minute and then kept going because I love the world in which Anita Blake is in. And I really enjoy her writing, and I have a couple signed editions. Like I love the series,
Yeah.
and but it was I mean, there's multiple books before anything actually really happens, and that's just classic. Like that's just how they used to be.
That's right.
Well, and that's how it was even when so I love Karen Marie Moning's writing in her urban fantasy as well. So her process was so much tension before there was actually any like real connection of like what you hear of.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that tension between the two main characters, as well as like a side character that has his own little issues. But without giving anything away in any of these book series.
For sure.
But I love that about urban fantasy. And it's hard because this is actually something that I'm really glad we're talking about this, because going from a fantasy romance and a fantasy and then romantasy, these genres just seem to like everybody's trying to morph into romantasy, but it's like, well, I wanted more world building here. And Annie and I find this quite a bit actually in the books that we read together, where we're like, oh, I wanted a little bit more here. Oh, I wanted more grit. Yeah. Where's the grit? We feel like the grit is what's missing.
Such a great word.
Actually. That's definitely that definitely is more urban fantasy, that grit, that kind of almost dirtiness to it. And I don't mean that in a sexual way. I mean that in like the world, like they're on the streets, they're getting goried up, they're fighting, they're taking down a mafia boss, whatever that situation is. And it just think it's and I think too, what I see a lot of is that in the areas of like where it's viral, whether it's TikTok or Instagram, a lot of what takes off is newer authors. Not always, but you see that because they're the shiny new thing, right? And so the newer authors may be coming into a genre that they haven't read or written before. And so they're actually not coming into it from a place of like understanding how that world building is happening, specifically in the fantasy realm. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that, because they're still doing well and they're still selling their books. It just makes it interesting when you're having these conversations with readers, and which is really fun when readers argue with someone who writes the actual genre, and then their readers are saying, no, you're wrong. And I'm like, fuck off. Like, I know I'm right.
No, I'm not wrong. That's you.
Like, no, that's not how we do things here. Like, we don't have that party in my house, because you really have to look at it from, again, these kind of new viral authors are the shiny new thing. They're getting a lot of airtime. It's what's building their careers. And that's what the majority of the new readers are seeing. And so there is not to say that they don't all in the same pot, as it were, but if you said to them, hey, tell me your favorite urban fantasy, they might say ACOTAR, but that's not urban fantasy. Oh, tell me your favorite fantasy, no romance, and they might say, Quicksilver. No, that's not. Like, there's definitions for a reason. I mean, does it really matter in the scheme of things? I don't know. I really don't know at this point. I think every author, like we talked a little bit earlier, every author needs to just write the thing that speaks to them, and the readers will find you. Like, I'm very blessed with the readers I have. They're amazing. Like, they show up. They have created a relationship in a sense with me, even if I don't speak to them personally, because what I deliver every time, I am consistent for them. I give them characters they can fall in love with, sidekicks they can fall in love with, magic and some spice or some romance, and twists that they don't find anywhere else. That's my job, and that's what I do. And so even though sometimes you get these like influxes of new readers into a genre, you just have to keep doing the thing. And I'm kind of speaking probably more to authors who've been around the block more, because we've been around and we see these ins and outs, and it can be really stressful thinking I'm not fitting into the trend, or I'm not fitting into the marketing that's current. Yeah. Maybe I'm not going viral on TikTok. It's okay. Just keep doing the thing that you do well, and it will be okay. Well, and the right readers will find you. They will.
Oh, they will. They
Absolutely.
Totally will. Yeah. Like, I think we've kind of talked about maybe like some of, and this is not, like you said, like not everyone, and not all these new authors, but we've noticed that some of them are having some of the same tone to them.
Yeah.
And they're blending into each other a little bit.
Yeah.
And
makes it hard when you read more than one book at a time.
sometimes I make the joke that they're all going through the same AI that's like,
and it could
that's like editing them. They're like, just send it through this and see what happens, and maybe it will. And then they're all coming out with some of the same tone, and you're like, look, like, as a reader, like I can hear it, and I'm actually finding that I'm somewhat disappointed in plot a little bit, just for the fact that
you'll see that in anything. So like back when I first started, the big thing was NA romance. That was like a new big thing, like that new adult romance.
Ooh,
from like 18 to 25, usually kind of college age. So you could be spicier than YA, but it wasn't considered like erotica or true romance. And so it was huge, and it made a lot of authors their name, their business. Like I say, a lot of them aren't around now because they were basically riding a trend, right? So anytime you ride a trend, regardless of the trend, you run the risk of rising and falling with that trend, right? If you are not writing true to who you truly are. My opinion, that's just my opinion. But I definitely see that here too. And so with it and a NA, new adult, I mean, how many ways can you tell a college love story? Right? So you start seeing, you're going to start seeing similar plots, similar places, similar, University of, Williams, Stone Throw, University of Georgia, slightly different names. And it's not different with any, like, what about the billionaire craze, right? We had a billionaire romance books.
Totally.
Probably aren't as popular right now, but that's just a guess. And so you see this rise of how many ways can you tell the same story of a billionaire, sweeping a woman off her feet, right? We had it with the vampire craze. How many ways can a vampire bite you?
Oh yeah.
Do they sparkle? Do they not? So every time we...
No, we did. You're right. We totally did a whole vampire. There was a whole...
There was a whole time frame.
We did.
And again, there's nothing wrong with any of these trends. And if an author can ride that trend, make a living, I am behind them 110%.
Oh, I am too.
Absolutely.
My piece of advice is to be aware that if that's the only thing you're doing, that you will rise and fall with that trend. And reverse harem. I dabbled in it because I got, so the reverse harem that I wrote, the 4 reverse harems that I wrote, at that point, I wasn't really writing any spice at all. I wasn't writing romance. And one of my other buddies, I will name her KF Green, Katie, decided.
Yes, I wanted to talk about this because there's a series that you've written with her.
There is. And so we were talking and we were laughing about like, the things that come out and all this sort of thing, discussing it. She's like, what do you think of this reverse harem? I'm like, oh man, like 4 or 5 guys, like, how do you manage that? We were laughing about, like the idea of
totally
and 5 men, right? Like, because we're all married and we're all struggling with 1 man. So like, why would you want?
Really?
Where do they all go
me right
now? I'm like,
what am I going to do with 5 guys?
Right. And so then the challenge got threw down. I said something like, I could write a reverse harem. Like I could knock it out. Like, and she's like, no, you couldn't. I said, I bet you I could write it. I bet you I could write it in a week. And she's like, you're on. Like, there was no money exchanged. It just became, so there's the ADHD right there. It was like, don't tell me it's not possible. Don't tell me.
Don't give Shannon a challenge. She will throw down.
I wrote the first one. It was super tongue-in-cheek. Like, it was an author who was writing a deadline and she'd gotten a divorce and like, she wrote about paranormal stuff like vampires. Now she like finds herself dealing with real vampires and she's having to rescue her sister. It's a whole thing. I mean, it was the most fun to write. I put it up. I put it and didn't tell anybody it was me, and it did really well, which cracked me up but I'm like, this is the thing.
Best.
It was caught in that wave. So even though nobody knew who I was, it was caught in a marketing trending wave. So that's the reality, whether it's romantasy or whether it's billionaires or vampires, these are waves and they come through every few years. We get a new wave of something, right?
Right.
So as authors, I think we need to be aware of it. Maybe we dabble in it. Maybe we, throw a little romantasy into one of our next books, knowing that we need to keep up with the times, but also knowing that that trend will fade. Not necessarily tomorrow, but it will fade because they all have. You hardly hear about new adult romance anymore. You hardly hear about billionaire romance. Even the even the vampire I would put almost into an evergreen category, but there's still an element of it. You just don't see it as much.
I actually like that term, evergreen. Yeah. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before, but
there are categories that are.
Oh, they're
for sure.
100%.
I would love to know what they are, because now I feel like I'm like sitting over here with FOMO with no idea what these categories even are.
Well, I mean, you've got that vampire. Like, this is like
vampire would be considered evergreen.
Classic.
Because you see it every year or every quarter, you'll see something pop up that's vampire based and does really well because people still love to read about it, right? Taken by Fate and that series, it's a vampire romance, and I really had a lot of fun with it because I hadn't written like vampire romance, and it's a slow burn too. Like they don't get it on in the first book. Sorry, maybe I'm spoiling it, but I love the like back and forth and the tension. It's the enemies to lovers or like
yes.
So,
yeah, but nothing happens in Golden. I mean, the tension is built all through Golden.
Right.
And it's a good time and a good ride. The whole story is just a blast.
Right.
And then you get into Glitter and you get your payoff, right? Because
you do.
Everyone needs a little payoff.
Yeah.
And you get a little payoff, but there's always a little twist. And now you're hoping for the next payoff because there's got to be another payoff. So we're reading and we're trying to get to the next payoff. And I'm a big believer in having like a hook at the beginning of a story. And if you don't have a hook, like you don't have a book. So it's and you also have to have a hook at the beginning of your second book. Every book needs to have a hook, or there is no reason to read the rest of.
That's right. And the thing is a lot of times people get like, and I've gone over this so many times, is that there's a difference between a hook and a cliffhanger. So the end of Golden, technically that one is still a hook because the purpose of the first book was done, meaning
I think I should read the last line of that one.
Right. Oh, but it is the best hook in the world. It is.
Oh,
dude.
Did I grab the right one? No, I didn't grab the right one. Like,
say that
honestly, I know. I'm like, I just grabbed the wrong one. The last line says, "Then we'd better get to fucking, hadn't we?"
Yeah.
I just like, there's your hook. Like, what better hook do you need than that? Like,
right?
It's fantastic.
So I love it.
Freaking love it.
So yeah, I mean, you have to. There is a difference. There's a difference. A cliffhanger.
Yeah,
I have a cliffhanger in one of my first books. Literally, one character is sitting over the other with a knife. The resolution of the first problem in the first book is not resolved. That's a cliffhanger. If the problem is resolved or mostly resolved, and then there's like a big hook, like we better get to fucking. That's a hook, and there's a difference.
I love it.
And don't get me wrong, readers hate both of them, especially if the hook is really strong. If the hook is really strong, it can feel like a cliffhanger, right? Because you're like, oh my God, what happens next?
I've decided I like them now. I'm at the point now where I'm like, leave me with a good cliffhanger. Like, I almost want that.
Right.
Because if I don't have a good enough cliffhanger, I'm not going to the next book.
Right.
Like,
I agree.
I actually need that. And I know a lot of people are like, oh no, it's a cliffhanger. You're gonna, no. Yeah. Like, I need that to keep going because
Agreed.
I personally read a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
you want to remember
last year,
to go back to that book.
I read 196 books last year. Like, I'm a reader.
Yeah.
Like, I'm an ARC reader. I do beta. I don't know if I can quite do alpha. But like I'm a good beta reader.
Yeah.
And I'm busy, so that's hard too. But if you have to keep me moving to the next one, or it's. Yeah.
Well, and as authors, generally speaking, we do know that. You know what I mean? Like, we understand that those hooks are really, really important. And like I say, some readers will get upset and they'll say, oh, there's a cliffhanger or whatever. And that's fine. I mean, the thing is that I personally love, like, I mean, every TV show I watch, we're actually, me and my husband, watching Dexter right now, which is super fun.
Oh my God.
We love
Dexter.
Dexter.
That's the most fantastic series ever.
They do hooks at the end of their episodes really, really well. Really, really well. And I think that is the thing, is if you watch different TV series, what is the hook at the end of them, except with the exception of like Seinfeld, which is a show about nothing, which we all know. Most series, if you go watch the end of the episode, there's a hook at the end. And what is that hook telling you? Someone's in trouble, who's sleeping with who, oh my God, a big secret's going to be revealed, whatever the thing is. And they do that because they want you to come back and watch next season or next week's episode. It's really no different with books. And it shouldn't be, because as humans, we're very much like, we're nosy creatures, man. What the hell happened next? We all do it. We all slow, there's an accident on the side of the road and we all slow down and go, what happened? Are they okay?
I don't want to, but I do it every time.
And
my son just learned the term rubberneck.
Yeah.
And like what it means.
Right. And while we, sometimes we have to, because people in front of us are going slow, but that means somebody slow down, which means we all slow down, which means we all look, right? We want to know what happens. We are nosy creatures. Nothing wrong with that.
Oh.
It's what gets us into trouble. It's also what helps us be inventive and have different ideas. We're nosy little fuckers. But that's the reality, is we have to have a reason to read the next. The next. What is the reason?
Well, I think that now we have a reason to interview you more, because I have loved having you on today, because this has just been so fantastic and so much fun. I vote we do this again.
We probably could talk for hours.
I know, I feel like that
all day, but like and I don't know, I don't know.
I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. When I have the special edition for my book coming out in July and I have the announcement, let's get on. We'll have another chat, because that
will be a blast.
We'll talk special editions again. I can show it off.
I love it.
And we can have a chit chat longer, maybe.
Oh, see, I'm down for that. I love it. I love it so much. So we do have a couple questions coming in from the Q&A. The first one is, what is the title of the book that was just released?
The title of the book just released was Consumed by Fate. It's the third book in a trilogy, so it's a completed trilogy. The first book is Caged by Fate. And so it's in my Alpha Territories world. So the first set of trilogy is Taken by Fate, Hunted by Fate, Claimed by Fate. That's one couple and their story. And then the second trilogy is another couple, Diana and her potential mate. I'm not going to give up a name, because in the beginning you're not really sure who's who. So it's Caged by Fate, Hidden by Fate, and now culminating with Consumed by Fate. And so then there'll be another trilogy starting. Forged by Fate is the first book. It'll be January 2026. Really fun world. There's vampires.
I love this.
Angels, demons, sea people, mermaids, Pegasus, dragons, and it's set kind of in an alternate realm of our world, meaning they were hidden behind a veil, and the veil was lifted, and they have their own territory.
I
love this theory.
Is this a trope? Would you call that a trope? Like a hidden realm or a subtrope? Like, I love that. I mean, I think that's why Harry Potter did as well.
If we want to be real, pedantic about it, we could call it urban fantasy, because it's magic set in the real world, which is really what Harry Potter is. Some people might call it portal fantasy, except we're not actually leaving Earth. So it's
it's like hidden within.
Yeah. I mean, it's epic fantasy with an urban fantasy bent, which is fun to write. My Witch's Reign was like that. I have a few others like that. Court of Honey and Ash with Kelly St. Clair was like that.
See, what will be cool is if we talk in July, we will have read more of your stuff too. So, because we just barely found you when we got our special edition.
Oh, nice.
That's why we were like, we're going down now we have a whole rabbit hole to go down to. So we're excited.
Okay. So what you guys need to do then is, you need to reach out to me and be like, okay, I want to read something that is this or that. And then I will guide you through, because there's a couple that interweave, and they're big. So the priceless starts with the priceless and starts with recurve, and the aimless witch. I see you have all three there. Those interweave, but not necessarily like one series, next series. They actually it's funky, man. And my ideas, you'll have fun with it. It's a lot.
I love this ADHD jumping.
I don't know how you don't get lost.
So happy.
I don't know how you don't get lost with the whole thing. I think it's fucking fantastic.
That's our next question. It says, is it hard to focus the ideas into a single project, or do you have multiple going at the same time?
Usually you have multiple in multiple formats, meaning so I might be doing a rough draft of one and an edit of another, and then a brainstorming of another. So I might have 2 to 3 going at a time, but they're in different stages, and that allows me to bounce easier. rough drafting 2 at a time is brutal. I don't recommend. I've tried it a few times, but it's too, I lose that flow that I talked about earlier. So if you get into the flow of your story, you don't really want to lose it. And if you're working on 2 different stories, your brain is busy going in 2 different directions. Some authors, maybe they can do it. I've like I say, I've tried. It's not my jam. So I'd rather do like a rough draft, some edits, and then like brainstorming and kind of floats through there. So yeah, that would be my thing there.
All right, next question. What is your favorite book or series that you've written thus far?
So I get this question all the time. They're like children, okay? They all have different qualities that I love. So like my Riley Adamson series, it starts with Priceless. It was the series that took off. It hit the top 100. There are days that I still don't know how I did it. It was the one that allowed me to step away from my other career and become a mom. So there is elements of Riley that are just so poignant to me. And I will be forever grateful for that idea and that series, right? But I would say that the problem maybe is that every series I write, when I'm in it, I'm writing it, that's my favorite. So when I was writing Midlife Bounty Hunter and really feeling that like middle-aged divorced woman with an asshole ex and falling in love with a fey blacksmith guy who's really hot but a little bit shady, like it was so fun to write because, her knees hurt and she took Advil with whiskey because we've all done it. The reality is it was the most fun to write at that time. Right. And then I have to let it go and I go to the next series. I really loved Golden Glitter and Gossamer. I initially thought it was going to be like a 9-book series. And I realized I want to do it like the Alpha Territories where I do trilogies with different couples because
I like that.
Because Sin and her partner by the end of the books, really their story was
Thanks for not spoiling it for us yet.
Right? Their story was
I have a sneaking suspicion.
As you should. By the time you hit Glitter, you should have a sneaking suspicion. But the thing is that writing that world and writing those series at that time of my life, and the thing is I write into the books what I'm going through at the time of my life, whether it's loss or
how do you not though,
whatever. And so there's pieces of that story that will always resonate really, really hard with me, and that's every single book. And that is
I love it.
I can't pick a favorite, because they each have pieces of me in them. Some of them are my light and some of them are my dark, and they all have value. So
I love that. All right. Last question. Is there a genre or subgenre you would love to venture into in the future?
So one of the books that I have sitting in my roster, and for those people who are in my newsletter, last summer I did a kind of fun project. So here's the ideation coming up again. I did a fun project. I had an idea and I did the first chapter of 4 new books, 5,000 word, roughly, first chapter, 4 new books. 2 of them were spin-offs from previous worlds, and 2 of them were brand new worlds. And I gave them to my readers 1 week at a time, said, you read them, and then at the end you can vote. And they voted. Now, one of those worlds is purely epic fantasy. Now, I have never written a true straight epic fantasy, but it is like my home genre, if you will. That's what I started with as a kid. And I feel like there's so much world building with that to do it properly. There's so much time required of you to do it properly. Epic fantasy's always been the one that I really would love to dive into. And alternately with that, really find my footing in a different way. Like I love all the books I've written. I love what I've been able to create in terms of a career and a reader base and amazing people that I get to know and meet. But that epic fantasy really calls to me. But I know it will be a whopper of a book, and I know it would take a lot of time. And when it comes to time, I have to keep producing other books to pay for those horse feed bills. So one day the epic fantasy will happen.
I love it. Oh, Shannon, this has been absolutely fantastic. I am so happy that you came really on and chatted with us today.
Super fun.
Where can people find you? What is your handle out there in the world?
So I can be found at Facebook on my Mayer's Magnificent Readers. I'm really active quite a lot in there because I'm an old lady, so Facebook is easy for me. The other place you can find me is my newsletter, which all the links and stuff are there, or you can find me shannonmayer.com. You can find all my books there. You can find my merch store there. You can find basically what's coming, all the new stuff. newsletter. You can kind of find everything. So if you go to Shannon
You're
Mayer,
so active on your socials like that, though. It's really impressive.
I love it.
I think that your fans and your readers are extremely appreciative.
Well, I really can't stress enough that as an author, I can't do this full time without my readers. And so I'm not here just because I wrote books. I'm here because I have amazing readers. I have loyal readers. I have people that show up every one of those 92 releases. Like that is a kind of gratitude that I can't say just in words. And so what do? I try to show up as best I can to thank them with my time. Because the reality is they are why I am here. They are why I've been able to make this a career. And I will forever be grateful for them showing up to every new release, whether it's Consumed by Fate yesterday or the one coming in July or the one from 3 years ago. They're really the reason. They really are.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited to see about this new release, and we'll be hearing back from you again coming July, August time.
June, July, August.
Yeah, and thanks to everyone in Twitch who came.
Yes, thank you to everybody who came.
Ciao.